We're back now. Well, I'll tell you what, something that is on the minds and on the agenda of most folks around the world is catching some Z's. We're all trying to catch up on sleep, it seems like, all the time. Well, we brought out the big guns. The professionals from SleepMed is here. This is Dr. Bogan. Thank you for coming
Alexis,
today.
Thank you very much.
Well, I want to get into this conversation about sleep. Let's start off with, I have a real fundamental question. It might seem a little simplistic. Why do human beings need to sleep? It just seems kind of weird, like every day we're functioning, and then we just have to like drop and go completely unconscious.
Right.
What is it about our physiology that makes that necessary?
That really is a fundamental question, and I'm embarrassed to say as a scientist, we don't really know why we sleep.
I love the mystery. I love that.
But we know a lot about why we sleep. I mean, sleep is fundamentally biologically important in order for us to function. So in order for us to survive, we must sleep. If you take an animal and you deprive that animal of sleep, it will eventually die. So it's fundamentally important. It's just as important as nutrition and just as important as exercise in terms of body function. The human brain is basically programmed to be awake in the daytime and asleep at night. And there's this complex, as you said, physiology, biology that protects us so that when we're in the daytime, we can go out and find food and protect ourselves, and then at night we shut off. We know a lot about the biology and why we do it, but exactly the fundamental question is not really known.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what my mom said.
Okay.
Okay, and because you mentioned that it's interesting people's different perspectives of sleep, and I think that's a good conversation as well. My mom seems to think, she puts it in a simplistic way that like when you're awake, your body is dealing with the environment around you, being aware, your perception, and dealing and reacting to your environment. Whereas when you're asleep, your body can focus on itself and its cells, maybe do some healing. Mm-hmm. Is there any truth to that, or is she just out there?
That's not exactly true, but we most of the data we have on sleep in terms of why we do that is actually sort of deprivation studies. So I deprive you of sleep, and then I look at you and see what happens. And what we know is that one, your reaction times are impaired, your metabolism changes, your blood sugar goes up, your insulin production you have developed insulin resistance, you get metabolic changes, you have memory changes, you can't remember as much if you don't sleep. Mm-hmm. So sleep is fundamentally important for memory and brain function. So you're right to some extent. The brain changes during sleep. It's very different from the awake state.
And what about, because physically I can look at myself in the mirror and see whether or not I've gotten enough sleep. You'll have circles, so there's got to be some sort of physical benefit from internally of getting sleep.
Well, we actually measure what you do when you go to sleep, and your body cools off and your blood pressure drops. Your brain does shut off. You basically hibernate for a little while.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, when you sleep, we know a lot about the biology of it, but you sleep in little 90-minute hunks. So you go down and sleep deep.
Are those REM cycles?
And then you have a REM period. It's almost like your brain is exercising, and you actually wake up. Most people wake up about every 90 minutes, and then they go back down again. That's why some people tell you, I always wake up at 2:02 or 4:06 or whatever, or I don't need an alarm because I'm always going to wake up at a certain time. And that's really part of the biology. So this whole science of sleep, which is a young science, quite frankly, is pretty fascinating. The biology is programmed within us. I mean, we have to do it.
I love it. I'm so interested in this subject. We have a lot more to talk about. Will you stay with us this morning, and we'll keep going a little bit get into some more and probably the dangers of fatigue, because I know a lot of us are suffering with those. Okay, thank you, Dr. Bogan. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Terribly interesting. Thank you for staying with us. Dr. Bogan is here this morning from SleepMed to teach us all how to get better and, more importantly, more sleep. So thank you for coming, Dr. Bogan. We appreciate that. And we spoke a few moments ago about the necessity of sleep, why human beings and mammals need to shut down every day, and that was very interesting. Now I want to talk about the polar opposite side of the same coin, which is what happens when you don't get the rest that you really need.
Right. Well, again, we talked about how biologically important it is, and we also talked about the fact that the human is programmed to be awake in the daytime, so we can still function even though we're sleep deprived, but we're not normal. Our prefrontal cortex, the front of our brain, which makes us human, is the first thing to shut down, so we become very primitive. So if you're driving to work, you're likely to be more primitive. And also your reaction times are impaired. So we know, for example, if you didn't get any sleep last night,
okay,
0 sleep, and we put you in a driving simulator.
And let's say there's fog out like there is this morning.
You're driving at about the level of legally intoxicated.
Really?
Yeah. Just
from fatigue.
Right. Right.
That is actually really dangerous.
Yeah, it is dangerous. In fact, that's why there are some states now that you know, it's an offense. It's against the law to drive sleep deprived.
Well, now, Dr. Bogan, what would you say to those people who make statements like, oh, I get by fine on 4 hours sleep, or
Right.
I'll sleep when I'm deceased? Like, what kind of conversation would you have with those folks?
Well, the point of it is, as we said earlier, you're programmed to be awake in the daytime. So even when you're sleep deprived, you can be awake and you can function, but you're not normal. One, you're more primitive, your metabolism changes, and you're not a normal person. But you can function, you can survive, but you're certainly not normal. Mood changes, irritable, low motivation, all of these are factors that are influenced by good quality sleep.
Now, how does good quality sleep affect your mood? Now, we all know what it's like to be around
Sure.
somebody who's a little too tired and they're grumpy, be it kids or all the way up to adults. Why does that happen? What is it about sleep that affects your mood? Is it a chemical change? What's going on?
Sure. Well, when you are awake, you build up a chemical, a substance in your brain. We actually call it adenosine, but this substance inhibits neuronal firing. So it is, we were talking earlier, it inhibits your dopamine. So the neurons are not functioning, they're not firing properly. So again, your ability to do divided tasks, to focus, to concentrate, to react, and mood, all of those are impacted. So in order to get rid of adenosine, you must sleep, and you must have an adequate quantity, quality, and continuity of sleep. And there are a lot of disorders that can affect those three domains so that you don't get rid of all the adenosine, and adenosine is what makes you tired and sleepy. Oh, by the way, caffeine is an adenosine inhibitor. That's why we drink so much caffeine, because we're trying to inhibit our adenosine.
Because you're trying to inhibit your adenosine. I'm learning so much, but gosh, there's a mountain of information that I want to acquire from you. Real quickly, we only have a few seconds. We that work on the morning show are shift workers. Are we particularly at risk?
Yeah, because you know, you're trying to work when your brain should be asleep, and you're trying to sleep when your brain should be awake, and so neither one of those are normal. And so you build up this chronic sleep debt that can translate into some pretty significant medical disorders.
And I understand women right around the age of 40 also have particular troubles.
Yeah, women are fascinating, obviously, in the sleep arena.
Wasn't that a nice way to say that? Somebody's married, and very, very happily married. Okay, well, great. Dr. Bogan, thank you for that information, but you really have just piqued my interest, so I might be tugging on your sleeve to get a little more info for you so that our viewers can learn how to get the proper rest so that they can function at 100%, because shouldn't we all be happy and doing the best we can?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Dr. Bogan, and we'll be back with more. Stay with us.